And with me this week is the amazing B. Dave Walters.
That is the dozens and dozens of my fans going wild.
According to your Twitter account, there are more than dozens. How's it going?
Pretty good. Can't complain. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here to talk to you about some Idol Champions presents The Black Pits.
The Black Pits.
Yes. But before we get into that, I've asked this question to a few people, I know the answer to this. You and I have talked about this, but for people who may not know, how did you get into D&D?
I've been playing since I was 13 years old. So when dinosaurs ruled the earth. I actually started playing Rifts first. A friend of mine got into Rifts because it was like, Tyrannosaurs and fighter jets. And I was like, yeah,
Where
okay.
could you go wrong?
And once I started playing that, and that game's got some pretty intrinsic systemic problems. A friend of mine super hipstered me and was like, oh, if you're going to play an RPG, you got to play Dungeons and Dragons. And it's like, what? And I grew up, in the 80s during the Satanic Panic when these things weren't just lame, they were dangerous.
You had 60 Minutes articles about it.
Tom Hanks made a cautionary film.
That's right. His first leading role was in, what was it? Tunnels and Monsters or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
If you Google Tom Hanks D&D movie, and it is, but yeah, and that was how I got started, and haven't stopped since.
It was Advanced D&D?
Yeah, this was second edition.
Very cool.
Yep. Second edition.
I was gonna ask if you started off as a player or a DM, but I'm assuming you started off as a player.
I did start as a player, but it's funny because I do these one-on-one games so frequently now because that was actually how we started. It was just the two of us. That he would run the game, and then eventually, when I got to know it well enough, I'd run games for him. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And my first character was an elven fighter mage thief based on Vampire Hunter D. A very big hat, a very long sword. Yep.
One, I absolutely love that. Two, I believe full-heartedly that your first character was multi-classed.
First character. And back in those days, back in my day, that was really difficult because if you didn't play OG D&D, each character class required differing amounts of experience points to level. Mm-hmm. And when you multi-classed, you could dual class. There was different ways to do it. But when you multi-class, you had to divide the amount of experience you got equally between all your classes, either 1, 2, or 3. So it was slow going. And even then, incrementally, you're like, oh, I got a level of fighter. Oh, I got a level of rogue. I got another level of fighter. I got a level of wizard. That's kind of how it went.
Oh my lord, that is a lot of math. Like, it's simple math, but it's too much math. I don't like it. But and speaking of multi-class characters, you're playing one in Idol Champions presents The Black Pits. You're playing your sweet lucky boy Freely.
Yeah, Freely, my lucky boy, coming out of retirement. He's been on a deluxe wedding trip across the plains, and his good buddy Bailoff sent out an invitation to come and engage in a little sword play and chicanery, and figured it might be a fun time with his friends. Penelope is just gonna go back, visit some family, and I'm gonna come and show these people how it's done.
Why don't you tell me a bit about the creation of Freely?
So, Freely actually started as a thought experiment of a 4-class build, and could it work? Mm-hmm. It was all 4 charisma classes of Bard, Paladin, Warlock, Sorcerer. Could it be done? What would be the right mix? And Todd hit me up to guest on what was then... We went through so many iterations of this show. It was Heroes of the Veil.
Okay.
At the time, I think, because this was 2018.
You guessed it on the show that would become Heroes of the Plains.
That would become lots of things.
Yeah.
We literally rebooted it like 4 times, but the last iteration where Freely reached level 20 was Heroes of the Plains. My poor boy got knocked back down in level 4 times.
Oh my gosh.
But so I again, the character was a thought experiment. I was just supposed to come in as a guest. It was a one-off. If you can find that episode back from the annals of internet history, I show up and he's like, "Okay, so you're a mind flayer." We didn't discuss that. So when he's like, "There's a mind flayer," and then mind flayer's you, I was like, "Well, apparently this is what a mind flayer talks like," and I just went with it. So I spent the whole episode as a mind flayer and didn't get turned back into a halfling until the last 5 minutes. And they had a coin that had an evil goddess in it, and they gave it to me before they got into the apparatus in Ravenloft because they were afraid it was going to set her loose. So he had me come back later because I had the coin, and this time I really was Freely. But Hope's character Penelope had been nice to me even when I was a mind flayer, and so I just was very much like, oh, she's my friend, so I'm gonna find her. And so that's why Freely came back. Turns out there was an evil duplicate of Penelope at the time, and I had that evil goddess coin, and I literally messaged Todd. I was like, if I set this evil goddess loose, is it gonna ruin your story? And he's like, no. And I was like, dope, evil goddess, will you give me Penelope back? And she's like, yep. I'm like, psh. And then hijinks ensued that led to one of the series reboots. And then when the story started again, I was there from the very beginning. Yep.
Okay. When you did the thought experiment for Freely, like you're saying, did you just try to build a level 20 character, or like did you pick a specific level you wanted to see how it would work?
So going back to the old days, where, and this is a thing that is actually coming back now, is feats and some things required prerequisites. Like if you didn't make a certain choice at like level 3, it shut out certain choices at like level 9. So having suffered from that greatly, whenever I make any character, I map them from level 1 to level 20 at the beginning.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. I have a whole spreadsheet. Hang on, I'm gonna see if I can show you my Freely spreadsheet here.
The Freely spreadsheet.
Oh yeah, it exists. Where I'd mapped out everything, and so I'd mapped out the entire possible progression. So to answer your question, I could jump in and play him at any level, which
cool.
ended up being very helpful for all the times I had to scale him up and down. And then another thing I did to just kind of keep myself sane was every time we rebooted and got knocked down in level, I'd play him slightly differently or slightly subclasses or take the things in a different order. Because otherwise it just was really, really painful to be like, all right, I'm going to play for 6 months to get back the abilities I already had, you know? Yeah, look, that's my Freely sheet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't do anything random. So there was different ways I could do it, and what level to take what, and where I would take what thing, and where I'd pick which feat, and all that stuff. So
that is so cool.
The version of Freely that got to level 20 is actually not the same as the version of Freely that was on Beyond Heroes or Silver and Steel. So yeah, different subclasses and things. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, this is the first time though that you're playing Freely as a player for Idle Champions Presents, because you I mean, you have DM'd every other Idle Champions Presents that has existed so far, and Freely has been missing from those. How has been the experience from the very first Idle Champions Presents to now? How has that been as a DM and getting those stories?
It's been great, because in almost each of them, actually in each of them, I've had some idea what the next one was going to be. So I got to like sprinkle a little bit of, a little insight into what was coming, or like some hints, like all the way back to A Fool's Errand, when they saw off in the distance the mountain that was on fire and the shadow fly. I mean, that was Tiamat then, all the way up to this most recent one. I sprinkled some stories, some details of what's coming in 4. And it's funny because even as we've been going through developing for it, there was a point where they were kind of like, do we really want to do this thing? And I'm like, I've already foreshadowed it. We got to do that thing, you know? So I think that's been the most fun, to be able to still tell a semi-contiguous narrative with some context and continuity, if that makes sense, that has been able to have all these interesting characters kind of come in and out of. That's been a lot of fun.
And like I said, you've had Freely in a lot of these. How is it as a DM having your character there, but trying not, like, do you just treat them as an NPC, or do you treat them as the character?
Usually just as an NPC. In that these games have been high level games, so for the most part, the characters don't need a lot of help. And quite frankly, my lucky boy hit like an absolute freight train. So I didn't want to, like, you know, come in and solve the problem that I also made for you. Which is why you'll notice a lot of times in games, if there's an NPC, I'll turn the NPC stat block over to someone else, unless for some reason it's a secret. Because I don't particularly care for, I'm gonna fight me right now. Because your NPC is fighting the bad guy. That's not particularly my jam, unless I just have to. So that is why, for the most part, Freely has shown up to advance the narrative. And if he's fighting, there's like multiple enemies where he's like, he's gonna go fight that one. You know, like there's 4 ogres, he's gonna take that one. You know, what are you guys gonna do about the other 3 ogres type thing? So that's why. Because I'm never trying to I'm not trying to upstage anyone when I'm playing, so I'm especially not trying to upstage anyone when I'm telling the story.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. How do you think that's going to be now, being in the player seat, and having Freely under Mark Mears DMing?
I mean, I played him first. I played him for years, you know. So it's it's an old pair of boots to put back on again. I mean, having to level him down again, you know, I'm like, let me consult the spreadsheet. I really did, by the way. I was like at level 17. Let me just back that off, and here we are, you know. So he still gets to do my most fun thing, which is his double smite, his paladin and warlock smite. That is top flight.
One of the things that I've been asking, I actually think I've asked each and every person so far, is what they think, because so far everybody's either been in, you know, previous games or whatnot, and so I've asked them, what do you think it's going to be like playing a game run by Mark compared to one being run by B-Dave? And I'm curious what your thoughts are. What's going to be different between your DMing style and Mark's?
Well, yeah, Mark is a genius, and I have the utmost confidence in him. There's been times that I was not available for the Black Dice Society, and I tapped him to run it. So that's the highest. I literally let him watch the baby while I was out. So I have the utmost confidence in him. But I actually think what we're getting is not going to be Mark running the game. What we're going to get is Baloth running the game, and that's a different question. That's not the same thing.
That is fair.
You know. So you know, for me, my thing is high stakes and high emotion. You know, I like stories where not just the fate of the world, but perhaps the fate of many worlds hangs in the balance. But even if I'm telling a street level story, it's the fate of the block hangs in the balance, and you know, that's still bad. Like you don't want anything to happen if you fail here. In high emotion, I think what Mark is going to do, if I had to wager a guess, again, what Baloth is going to do is put on the greatest show possible. And you know, and we'll just have to find a way to struggle to survive it, you know, for his entertainment and for ticket prices and merch. Yes. It's very meta.
Yeah. I did actually ask Mark also what he thought about it, and he said that he wasn't gunning for your most evil DM award. So
I want you to know something. I'm like, what?
This whole thing?
Yeah. I want you to know, I pulled TTRPG gifts aside, and I was like, don't even nominate me anymore. I did not. Let someone else's reign of cruelty begin. You know.
You're a Justin loving evil DM.
It's true. It's I get to spread it further this way. You know what I mean? More people contending for the crown.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Freely has been there for these other Isle Champions presents, and we do have a lot of people who are returning from previous ones. But what do you think is going to be interesting about playing Freely now alongside these other player characters? Are there any that you're really excited to see interact with Freely?
It's I have stacked the deck slightly in that, you know, anybody I really wanted him to interact with, I interacted with when I was telling the stories. I think that the thing I'm most interested in is, so, you know, the way his story ended in Beyond Hero, or Heroes of the Plains rather, was he and Penelope got married and left to travel across the plains. Spoiler alert, you know, I guess this is like a year ago now. So I'm like, so he's been retired. So this is going to be his first really like return to adventuring in a while. So I'm actually looking forward to doing that. What's the latest lineup of the cast that who we got coming here?
Let's see. We've got Havilar, we have Briv, we have Tatiana, and we got Freely. Who I know I'm forgetting some people.
Those are the ones that I knew off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know an easy way to check this. I'll check my schedule.
Hey.
Oh, and Whittle.
Yep.
Yes. So there's one that you that Freely has interacted with a lot.
Yeah, but yeah, he and Brev went through quite a bit together.
Oh yeah.
Freely never met Tatiana. She saw him, but he was an illusion in the Shadowfell. So she's seen him, but he wasn't real. He goes way back with Havilar. Like, nah, we're old friends. Yeah, me and Havilar. He's never met Whittle at all. No, he has met Whittle.
Yeah.
He hasn't met Riddle, the current iteration.
That's fair. Yeah, this one is Whittle. Yeah,
right. Has met Whittle. They go way back, and may or may not have been there when Avron became a god together. So that's you know whatever. I would go way back with Briv. That's all of them, right?
I think it's just the 5. Right.
Yeah. So it's I think he's gonna want to wrestle Tatiana though for sure. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, stronger than I look. I'm slippery, spry. Yeah, so that'll be fun. I'm really looking forward to everybody seeing my the Freely skin for this. By the way,
can you give any hints about what they might be seeing in that?
It is directly based on my very favorite movie. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Directly based on my very favorite movie. Yeah.
Which movie is that?
I can't say because then it's like super obvious. Like, you know what I mean? There was like, you know what I mean? Like there would be no more. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. Have you really not seen the?
Oh no, I have.
Okay, right. Okay. I was like, I'll show you. You're under all the NDAs. Yeah.
I haven't seen the skins yet. No.
Okay.
I have seen Havilar's skin because Aaron was very excited about it and showed, which you all are not prepared for that one.
I've seen the Havilar skin. I've seen the Tatiana skin. And I've seen mine, and they are all incredible. But it was. Oh, I guess I don't have it here handy.
I'll be able to find it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's top flight. Yeah, I'm very happy with it.
That's fantastic.
Very happy with it. Mm-hmm.
So going back to DMing and playing, what do you find that you love about being a player that you don't get to do when you're DMing?
It's funny. People always ask me for a very long time. They were like, which do you prefer, playing or DMing? And I would always say that I enjoy both equally. Mm-hmm. And that was always my knee-jerk answer, which I realize is a little bit of a cheat. But I've come to something else I came to realize is when given the choice to do either, I pick DMing every time. like
Yep.
100% of the time. Never once have I said like, no, I won't run it. I'll just play. Like that's not what happened.
This is why we're friends.
Right. Yeah. So, but even when I'm playing, I'm still trying to figure out what the DM's doing and where there's going so I can help, you know, so I can help advance the story and help get us where it is that we're trying to go. So it's on a certain level, it's less work in that you have less responsibility, but you also have less tools, you know? So it's when, you know, when you're switching characters, when you're playing a character, as you know, you're putting on a certain mask. When you're dungeon mastering, you're putting on lots of masks and taking them on and off. When you're playing, you only got to put on the one. You know, I just got to be my lucky boy, and it's like, okay, you know, that's because I created freely, as I've shared before. You know, each of these characters, when I make them, they're the exact opposite of whoever came right before them. You know what I mean? Like you could plot them all on a graph that they're just like away from each other. And when I made freely, we were still doing LA by Night.
Oh yeah.
And so Freely's not Victor.
Literally the opposite of
Victor. He's literally not Victor. That's what Freely is. Yeah, so Freely was not Victor. You know, Victor was
literally opposites.
Literally. You know, Victor is this morally gray diplomatic tactician. That's why Freely was the halfling of action, you know, and his morality is very sneezy. And his morality is very, very black and white, you know, like there's good and there's evil, but not in a Rorschach sort of way, because over the course that I play, he's very forgiving, you know, or bad things that were like not being bad at the time, or were doing the right thing or whatever. But I mean, I hit that paladin divine sense, and it's like undead celestial fair fiends, where they at? Boom. So
you definitely did also put a little bit opposite of you as well, because Freely has a big love for a certain dragon god that you may not have the same affinity for. Oh God. That's it. I got somebody to leave an interview. Oh, she's here.
She's here. First of all, Tiamat supremacy. That's the first thing. Yes. Freely. Wait, hang on. Can't break her.
No, don't.
She's fighting back. Freely is a big fan of Bahamut, because Bahamut is a lawful good deity. To Todd's credit, I give him a hard time for having him made Bahamut Freely's father, but I actually had made because I do a lot of charity games, and one of the charity games I had people go to Mount Celestia, and when they got there, Freely was there as a herald of Bahamut, because I figured that was a logical conclusion for his story. That's a thing he'd do, you know. I think Bahamut's dumb, but Freely doesn't. So yeah, very pro Tiamat house. Yeah.
Now it's gonna be the day that somebody actually you're playing Freely and they make you fight Tiamat. That's gonna be.
I mean, he was there during the
true.
battle.
You made that happen.
Tiamat. I did. It hurt me, you know. It hurt me to hurt him, you know. Yeah. So technically, he has thrown hands with her already, and that was his aunt, you know. But it was very. I won't ruin the ending of the Trials of Mount Tiamat, but if you've never seen that, friend, you should watch it, because the ending was perfect, better than I could hope.
Oh yeah, that was a phenomenal ending. The greatest crossover in streaming history. So this question popped into my head then, you know, because this is, you know, the Black Pits are this gladiatorial arena and whatnot. What is something that you have always wanted Freely to fight? Like a creature, a character, a villain? Like, is there anyone that you can think of that's like, that would be an amazing fight for Freely?
So here's the thing. So recall again, he started out as a thought experiment, but it actually worked way better than I ever hoped. Like, that little guy is incredible. The problem is he's also very, very, very squishy. I think at level 20, I think he still had 99 hit points.
What?
At level 20. Like, wait, let me look at my. I mean, he was always.
Now I gotta consult the sheet. Like, you're making me consult the sheet now.
I mean, he always was, you know, pretty within range of a power word kill.
Oh yeah, because it's 6 levels in Paladin, so
yeah, man.
Yeah.
I know. I'll show you. Oh no, not 6 levels in Paladin. 6 levels in Bard. He's only 3 levels in Paladin.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that would definitely do it. For the HP. 99 hit points, huh?
Hang on. I'm gonna. All right. Here's the Freely from Heroes of the Plains. He at level 20. He had 105 hit points.
105. six more. You know, that's 6 more can count.
I mean, but here's the thing. He's very difficult to actually damage. Between all of his like get out of jail free cards. I mean, his AC was obscene because he had the defensive flourish from a bard. I could cast shield, so I could get my AC like was 30. I'd finally gotten right near the end a spell that the name eludes me currently, that made it where if I passed a save, I took no damage at all.
Ooh.
So, you know, he became a lot harder to hit in that respect. And then it just, it all worked out. It all worked out. Circle of Power. That was it. Yeah. Circle of Power.
That's awesome.
So yeah, no, love that little guy. That's there. So there was a competition, a PvP competition that I was invited to participate in, and I actually didn't because I was like, I don't want to smash the heck out of my friends. You know, they'll get wrecked. I mean, dual wield Paladin Smite. No one can withstand too many of those things. You know what I mean? That you're just like, and not even if I double smite, like, oh, I'm just gonna drop 11d8 on you, and then I'm gonna drop another 11d8 on you, and we're done here. You know? So
you want to put on a good fight, you know?
Right? Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't want that. You know, I wouldn't feel good about that. You know, come on.
So
they just
really
look so sad when you smite them.
The answer is to who would you want Freely to fight? Anyone that's up for it.
Whoever wants that smoke, you know. Yeah. I mean, he went 1v1 with Asmodeus for centuries, so that's badass. There's not really, there's not a lot left there, you know. Believe it or not, though, even though he obviously is a very combat oriented character, that's not what he himself wants. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to hurt people. He wants to protect the innocent. So he's not fighting just to fight.
That's awesome.
I'm fighting just to fight. He's not fighting just to fight. Yeah.
So yeah, you've played Freely for quite a bit now, but the other show that you've had going for not as long, but still it's been a year, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk to you about it because we've had players on whose characters have come to the game, but we haven't really had a chance to sit down and talk to you, the DM of Black Dice Society.
I will say, here's the number one thing about the Black Dice Society: the hunkiest podcast producer ever working on that show.
You are too sweet.
He's dreamy.
You're too sweet, and you were the best. But yeah, how did Black Dice Society come to be a thing?
Believe it or not, Watsy reached out to me and was like, we're Ravenloft is coming back. Word is you know a thing or two about vampires and D&D. Would you like to do a Ravenloft show? And I was like, the answer to all of those things is yes. You know?
Yeah.
It was I had just wrapped up doing my Patreon. I think I did my last Patreon game in November, and they hit me up in December. So I was running 35 to 40 games of Vampire a month. I ran over 600 sessions of Vampire. So I was neck deep in spooky storytelling. and they were like, you're the only person that we can think of that knows both so well. And I was like, let's go. And in the earliest, because I was kind of what trying to think of what I can say without being riddled with NDA bullets.
Yeah,
But it's
you
like,
gotta watch those laser pointers.
well, I mean, because they were like, what ends up happening in the development of these projects, it'll be like, this is what we're doing. This is what we think it's going to be like. Here's some very, very early bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
Psych, it's none of those things.
That's fair.
So I was in the process of so I got the early pitch for what would ultimately be Van Richten's guide.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this whole thing. I have a shocking number of things within arm's reach because I got really long arms too.
It's not like there's a lot of stuff everywhere. It's that you have really long arms.
I'm like, what? Product placement.
Hey, look at that.
Idle Chambers of the Forgotten Realms. And I got all my Iris dice here too. So what I'd envisioned the story to be was almost a Monster of the Week. You know, that it was going to be like 3 to 4 episode arcs of they go to this place, deal with this one thing, and then they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the plan. And then I got my hands on the book, I think a week before we started, maybe 10 days. Oh, no, it was, I mean, we laid it right in there. Because we agreed to do it in February. They asked me in December, contracted the cast in February. The show went up April 1st, and I remember it went up April 1st because we were all like, I assure you we're not joking.
Yep.
This is actually...
I remember the tweets.
Yeah, like, no, I was like, I'm not messing with you. This is really going to happen. Because, you know, we had to delay it till we had the friggin' book in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked by the depth and the complexity of all of the Dread domains. And I realized I couldn't do any of them justice in just, you know, a week or two of just go here and do a thing. So the whole plan changed right before the show went up and became a much more in-depth and complex thing that has become what it's become. Yeah.
The character development in that has just been amazing to listen to, because you know that's how I hear the show. And so the did the characters that they made also change a bit of what you were thinking the story was going to be?
Yes, in the sense that I had to make sure I gave everyone a chance to shine. But what ended up happening was the logical ways that their characters all connected, the only guidance I gave them is I was like, this is a horror story. It is not going to be funny, you know, because the purpose of comedy is to diffuse tension. That's what comedy is for. All horror is tension. And so you can judiciously apply a light moment to get everybody to relax before you dip back down. But a mistimed, that's what she says, literally ruins everything.
Yeah.
I will say there was one person that I had pulled aside and was like, yo, that's not this game. I know I will get a water bottle and just spray you. And we had come up with a character, and they literally were like, because those 6 people that you see on screen were the 6 people I wanted. Literally, back to Mark, when Watsy was like, will you do a Ravenloft show? I was like, yes. And I hung up the phone and literally called Mark right then. He was the first phone call I made, because Ravenloft is his jam. Like, Mark loves Ravenloft like I love Star Wars, which he gets upset because he loves Star Wars too. I'm like, I know, Mark, but can I just...
Gotta have an analogy.
Allow the analogy, please. But, you know, he's Ravenloft, you know? So he was the first call. Those 6 were the 6 I wanted. All 6 said yes. It is just so happens that is the only time out of the entire week that we're all available is that exact block of time. So it was meant to be. All hail the dark power. It was meant to be. So I told them also, I was like, good people don't get drawn into the mess. You know, like you're not making a hero here. Like you might do some heroic things, but if you're looking for justice, you've come to the wrong place.
Mhm.
And Mark was like, can a good person be born in the mist? I'm like, we're about to find out, I think. But the rest of you, I was like, people leaned into that more or less. I only know one of them that set out to make a truly terrible person, and I think they succeeded. I'm being vague, I know, but so one person came back to me and was like, I can't do it. I can't be serious for 3 hours. Like my brain won't let me. And so I was like, okay, let's work together. We'll create a concept that will make it make sense. That you'll almost be the gallows humor person. You know what I mean? And we were ready for that. And the first episode came around, and they opened their mouth, and that is not at all the character that came out of their mouth. And I was like, so whoa, okay,
There we
all
go.
Right. Here we go. Yeah, we're doing this now. Yeah, which don't get me wrong, I've had happen. I thought you were this person, turns out you're this person. Once I start, but yeah, it very much was not at all the person we discussed. And I'm like, okay, great, but it's all worked out for the best. So I wouldn't change anything about any of them.
And obviously we don't want to go into too many spoilers on things, but there are several times that you have said there are things that you had planned out from the beginning that you've laid that groundwork for, just like you were talking about with Isle Champions Presents. If you had to guess, how many of those things did you have just in the back pocket that you were like, I know this is gonna happen?
There's literally been things that were 40 episodes in the making.
40 episodes.
Yeah, for sure. Before it like paid off how I wanted it to.
That's like 120 hours. It's 120 hours of wow.
And then yeah, got him though.
You did.
Got him,
you did.
When it happened, they're all like, ah! And I'm like, yeah.
So then what? How do you do that? Like, how do you know what stuff you can be sure is going to happen and what stuff you can't be sure because it's too like the players might have too much like influence on where it goes there that you don't think that's going to be able to happen?
Like, I can give you an example. I have an idea how the story ends.
Oh wow.
And there's kind of not two ways it can end, but two sets of circumstances that are kind of going to come. Will it end over there or will it end over here? Okay. And then that's kind of going to be dictated by the choices they make on the way, because I was like, some of y'all might not be available to go there, so it may have to end over here. Like, that's a decision split that I'm like, I need to see what they're going to do that is going to decide,
So it sounds like it's almost more of like you have an idea of something and you're like, I hope that this works, and if they continue down this path, it absolutely will happen. But it's okay if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, and I never want to be railroady.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, we had the final battle with Strahd, and he of course makes the offer, join me and together we could rule the Empire. I knew there was a non-zero chance that person would say yes. And Jason and I were prepared that it's like, if they take you up on this, this is where it's going to go. You know what I mean? And it would have gone that way. Like, I would not have been like, no, you can't, because the thing that I'm always saying, for my money, the reason why people play these games is so they have a chance to be at cause in the narrative, to have what they do or don't do matter. Because so often in life we don't get to feel that way, that we have an impact, that our contribution is truly important. So in any time you take that away from people, you're violating the core of why we're even here.
Yeah.
So I set the stage. I have a pretty good idea what I think they're going to do, and I know what the world is going to do. But as a philosophy, just my DM ethos is, I take what they do or they don't do. I ask myself, what is the worst possible outcome from this sequence of events, and then I do that thing.
Thus the award.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
but it keeps working. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
Always grist for the mill. So, so yeah, it's there's never a moment that that is going to happen because I want it more than they want it, if that makes sense. You know,
Oh,
like
yeah. What would you say, like, what would you say is your favorite moment that has happened on the show?
bringing back Vornika.
Nice.
They didn't see it coming, and it was one of those things that I was like, there was so many clues, and then one by one I saw in their faces,
Yeah.
where they're having their usual suspects moment, where they're thinking back, they're like, and I'm like,
I even remember editing that episode, and like you guys had done a cool thing with visually with it, and so I just had the audio, and when it came out I was like, excuse me. Like I said it out loud in my room by myself.
Yeah, because I tricked them on and off screen for that one. Yeah, that was a very long con.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I was pretty proud of that one, and that one,
as you should be.
Yeah, there was a long setup there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
the last thing I want to bring up is the Taroka deck. That is just repeatedly one of the most interesting things that happens on that show. Is every time those cards get pulled.
What I'd hope, I realize, you know, obviously we're pushing 50 episodes now, so there's you know, it's a lot of content to go through, but I hope somewhere along the line someone goes back and watches it, because the cards were shockingly right every time in ways they didn't know, that I was like, I know what's coming and the cards are right, and I can't tell you because it's gonna spoil it, but like going back and being like, oh, I mean, I think the wildest one was it was like, what do we most need to be concerned about in Barovia? And I was like, is there a Strahd card? And she drew it, and it was Dark Lord. That was the one I think that Mark even was like, yeah, because there was one in particular where he was like, I don't like this anymore.
We got some dark magic in this game.
I think that was it. I think that was the one. Yeah, those dang cards, man. Yeah, and it's out of the Beetle and Grim box. I have to say pointing over there because it's over there. Yeah.
God, that Beetle and Grim box is so ridiculous. It's the only that one and the Van Richten one are the only ones that I've purchased, and they're two of my happiest purchases I've made.
It's all good. Every single one of those things they put out is incredible. Yep.
But yeah, the Taroka deck pulls 100%. If you have not seen it and you go back and watch it, pay attention to those card pulls. They are ridiculously accurate.
Ridiculously.
Yes.
And again, she's not faking because she doesn't know.
No.
Yeah.
No, I actually, one of my favorite things is she'll pull a card and you'll read it. You just go, yep.
That's the thing. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
Well, B-Dave, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me today about Freely, Black Dice Society, Idle Champions Presents, all that fun stuff. You are a busy man, but if people wanted to find you on the interwebs and what you're doing, where could they do so?
Where can't you find me?
I've said it so many times. You have seeing you has surprised me in more content just on the fly than anything else.
Man, it's happened to me. I just been watching random internet videos and like reaction gifs of me are in it. I'm like, huh, look at that. That's weird. Yeah, right. I know that old boy. Yeah, I'm non-ironically TV's B. Dave Walters. You can find me the G4 Invitation to Party. I just did a game of D&D on Netflix for the kids from Stranger Things. That was a lot of fun. Check that out if you haven't. Legends of the Multiverse going on now. I'm in the midst. Brennan started it, and we're in the leg of it of me telling the story for a while. And that's Wednesdays at 5 Pacific on D&D Twitch and YouTube, and Black Dice Society is Thursdays at 4 on D&D Twitch and YouTube. And just follow me on the Tweetagrams at B. Dave Walters.
Heck yes. Please follow B Dave and watch as much content of his as you can. There is a lot of it out there.
Thousands of hours by now, honestly. Yeah. But it's all good stuff.
It is, absolutely. But that is going to do it for this week's episode. I hope you all are excited for Isle Champions Presents the Black Pits as much as I am, and we'll see B-Dave playing freely in that one, and seeing what Baloth has in store for them.
I'm sure it's going to be fine. You know, Baloth and I, we get along great. I don't see why you want to do anything to hurt me.
No reasons to worry. No reasons to worry at all. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next week, take care of yourself.